Okay. So shall we start, Firoz?
Yes, sir. Sir, make me co-host.
Okay. Okay. Done.
Thank you.
So Dr. Firoz actually working on labor migration and also working on various legal issues and all. And he has been associated with GRFDT, and he is PhD from our school only. So today he'll be talking about international legal provisions. This is Unit 9. So you can ask questions or whatever, make it very interactive so that you can learn and give good feedback to Firoz also. Okay, over to you, Firoz.
Thank you, sir. So after having a great session from Dr. Anjali Sai, now you may be feel little boring my lecture, but we'll try to make it interesting. And the good thing is that here many people are Sadasar student, including me. So we'll try to cooperate each other and we'll begin the things without wasting time. So my topic today is on international legal provisions. So the first thing comes to our mind is why it is important to know about international legal provisions. So can anyone say?
Now, with the globalization, the world is getting more and more interconnected. No nation can remain isolated from the rest of the world. You know, there are international trade taking place, international migration taking place. So in this background, it is very important that we understand the legal provision in the other world, so that it is useful in the international trade as well. As far as this course is concerned, when we are migrating to some other country, if we know that the migration policy legal provisions are increasing, then that works can work as a motivation. So legal provisions are very important, and it enables us to take the right decision as which country to migrate.
Okay. As rightly said by Manish, it is because there are more movements in the world than any time before. So that is why it is very important and necessary to know about the international provision. So the next question to come that comes to our mind is, what are the factors that influence the mobility of the people? Manish has already given some idea. Now, if we divide the whole thing into two parts, that is on the positive side, we can say that because of globalization and advancement of technology, and there is an increase in bilateral and multilateral policies among the nation, so people are moving. Now, if we see the negative side, it is the displacement of the people. Conflict is there, acute poverty is there. So all these factors are there that is actually influencing the people movement. Now we are coming to next thing, that the broadly, if we say that international policies are divided in between refugee trafficking and workers migration. So all the policies or legal instruments are basically correlate with each other, and it is quite difficult to segregate them, but they are different from each other. So basically I'll be talking about all these provisions only that are related to the things. Now, who make this policy? See, if we talk about a national policy, then we know that the government of India or the government of UAE or anything. So that makes the policy. But when it comes to the international, then who are the people, who are the organization or the institutions that are making this policy? So can anyone try to give the answer?
Sir, there is 3-4 pillars of globalization. One is to deal with the financial exchanges. There is an international monetary funds. To deals with the trades, there is a World Trade Organization. To deals with the investment and other big projects, there is a World Bank. And there is a UNO to deal with the other national conflicts and others. So there are a lot of we have a good institutions to deal with the international and global policies.
True. Anyone else who want to try?
Now, As far as you rightly said that as far the national laws are there, they are very well defined, and the legislature makes those laws, and there is a system to enforce them. But as far as the international laws are there, now the question is that who makes this policy? So number one, it could be bilateral in the nation. Two nations can enter into certain agreement. For example, exchange of criminals, all those treaties, extradition treaties can be made. And then it could be multilateral in the nature, where there are more than two countries can come together and that. Now in the present system, in the era of the multilateral diplomacy, now all these things, as rightly said by Mr. Harjinder, is that they are being coordinated by the international organization. Like if you talk about the laws related to migration, yes, UNA is a very important ingredient who is promoting them. And there is the International Law Commission of UNO who is coordinating to make all these things. Earlier there was various Vienna Convention and all that. So but we need to keep in mind that the end of the day, it is the individual nation who has to affirm to these policies.
Okay. Both are right. Now we can see that international organizations such as UN, ILO, and IOM, etc. These are the institutions that make this policy, that makes this law for the protection of migrants and for the protection of migrant workers. Now, let me introduce. In the beginning itself, I said there is lots of displacement. So now we are going to focus on the negative side of the thing. What make people to push? What make people to migrate from their nation to another country? And what are the problems they are facing? And how these legal instruments playing the important role in safeguarding these people's life and their fundamental rights. So now coming to the magnitude, now you can see as per the UNHRC report 2019, nearly there are 79.5 million who are forcibly displaced worldwide. When we talked about refugees, there are 26 million refugees are there at present, and 4.2 million are asylum seekers. And if we see the magnitude from where these people are coming, so as per the same report, it says that Syrian Arab Republic has 6.6 million refugees. I mean to say people are moving from that country. Then Venezuela, we have 3.7 million, Afghanistan 2.7 million, South Sudan 2.2 million, and Myanmar 1.1 million. But where these people are going, if we believe on that report, it says that Turkey hosts 3.6 million refugees, Colombia hosts 1.8 million, Pakistan hosts 1.4 million, Uganda 1.4 million, and Germany 1.1 million. Now the big question that arises, who are refugees and who are asylum seekers? Before that, we have to look what are the incidences that give birth to this term refugee. As we see the world in the past, that World War I was the first incidence where large number of migration took place. Large number of people get displaced from their native places, and they were forced to migrate to another country. In the similar manner, World War II was the second incidence in which large number of people get displaced. Now, if I'm going to ask you what is the difference between a refugee and an illegal migrant, can anyone try to give this answer?
So illegal migrant is very clearly defined that a person who is trying to migrate to other countries by not following the host country rules and regulations. There is a clear-cut rule for immigration defined in various countries. Legal provisions are there, they have to follow. If there is not followed, then it is called illegal. Now, refugees is an entirely different story. Refugee generally means that in the home country, they have been persecuted because of religion, because of political ideology, because of any belief they have, and they have gone to other country to take a refuge, right?
Okay.
That is correct. So both are clearly defined.
Okay. So as rightly said by Manish, that illegal migrants has different definition and refugee has different definition. So how Manish can make out this difference is just because of the term definition. the international provisions or the international legal instrument, what their basic work is to define the term. If they are not going to give the definition, what is refugee, what are asylum seeker, what are illegal migrants, what are legal migrants, so then how you or anyone can differentiate between the movement of the people? So the legal provisions are here to help us to understand, to know what is the difference between the people who are migrating and what the legal instrument should be focusing on, and how they are going to protect the things. So now, if we talk about refugee, we know that 1951 Refugee Convention is there to protect the refugees. But what this 1951 Refugee Convention provide to us? Now, can anyone try to explain?
Sir, what is the question, exact question, sir?
What this 1951 Refugee Convention is doing? I mean to say, what provision it is providing, or how it is making refugees different from other migrants?
Sir, basically it deals with the fundamental rights of refugees,
Okay.
because the refugees are one of the most vulnerable category in migrants.
Mm-hmm.
So they need some extra favor
Okay.
when they enter in another country. So this convention deals with to protect their rights, that everyone has right to move anywhere globally.
Okay.
So this was the context of that.
Right. Anyone can?
Now, basically, this is an attempt to, to bring all the laws related to refugees in a single set. Because before that, various conventions were there, various Vienna conventions were there. Now, what has happened after the formation of UN? All these things are being done under the International Law Commission. So they have tried to, provided a umbrella legal convention which not only defines refugees, but what are their rights are there, how the host country should treat with them. All those things are there.
Okay, both are right. Now, the thing is that 1950 Refugee Convention, as I already talked about, they have given the definition. What is refugee? They have defined the line that these are the people, these are the categories in which these people can be termed as refugee. Actually, they have given the status to people. Now, if they are refugee, they are going to get such kind of rights. So the Refugee Convention actually provided them the status. Now, sorry. Hello.
I think Vijay Nayarji Kuwait, can you just, yeah.
Okay.
So please go ahead.
Okay. So the Refugee Convention has provided the status to the people who have taken shelter in another countries. Okay. So now with this status, these people have got the right to move freely inside the country. Otherwise, if an illegal migrant go to another country, they cannot move freely. Okay. The other thing which the Refugee Convention has provided them the right to take education, as well as right to take the livelihood. I mean to say, they are having the right to work in another country, and they can participate. People can help them out to take jobs or to do works. Now, if we talk about illegal migrants or irregular migrants, then there is nothing such things that people can take the employment opportunity freely, or they can have the education rights freely. But here, because of this Refugee Convention, these people who have migrated with the fear that they get persecution in their nation, so they get settled in another country, and that country has that country should provide the right to these people for education, for employment, and as well as for the other heads. So these are the right which has provided to the refugees: right to work, right to housing, right to education, public relief and assistance, freedom of religion, to access court, and freedom of movement within the territory. Okay, now what is the difference between a refugee and an asylum seeker? Can anyone try to give the difference between a refugee and an asylum seeker?
Now, asylum
So
seeker.
a refugee would be.
Sorry, one by
So
one.
what I understand is that an asylum seeker would be a person who has the fear of like being prosecuted somewhere, or uh, basically where in the his country he's not safe, and he's wanting to shift to another country and be a part of that. Whereas the refugees would be can are basically people who may be running away from a conflict area, like which is happening in Ukraine, or it could be, they could be climate refugees who are, because of climate change the whole ecosystem is changing, so they are wanting to go. It's not the fear of prosecution, but it is a fear for their life, or also wanting to have livelihoods.
Okay.
So basically that's what my understanding goes.
But in my understanding, the devising line could be political in nature. Asylum seeker, they are the political nature, and as for refusers, there, as Madam rightly pointed out, it could be a humanitarian ground.
Okay. Anyone else want to try? Please, you can interact.
I think I can give it a try. There was a writer from Bangladesh who has been given asylum in India. So I think there are various types of refugees, as Abhaji told: climate refugee, the refugee. But asylum, I think they are political refugees. So basically, they have problem from the state of a country, from the deep state, the government of a country. That's
so
what
to an extent, everyone is right. But see, refugees are also fearful people. They have moved from their nation to another country with the fear that they may get or they can get persecuted. Okay, so there is no difference in between refugee and asylum seeker as such, but the difference is that refugee got the status. Now if you have moved to another country, they have got the status that these people are refugee, and now in which country they are staying, it is the responsibility of that state to take care of these people. Whereas the asylum seeker, they have moved out from their country and they are just waiting for other country to let them in or to give them the status of refugee. Till the time they are not getting inside the other country, or they are not getting the status of refugee, they are asylum seeker. So in both the situations, they have moved from their nation to another country, and they are not willing to go back to their nation or to their country just because of the fear that they may get or they can get persecuted in that country. So the difference here is very minute, that refugee has already get the status, whereas the asylum seekers are waiting for the status to get the status of refugee. Now it is clear to everyone.
But sir, could the refugees can go back if the situation improves, and they can go back, but an asylum seeker may not want to go back.
No. Both in both the cases, if the situation is normalized and they are not fearful, they can go back. But the thing is that unless and until you are not going to get the status of refugees, these rights, I mean to say the right to work, the right to housing, the right to education, the right to public relief and assistance, the right to freedom of religion, the right to access the court, these all the rights are not for the asylum seeker. These are reserved for the refugees, because these people get the status that these people are refugees. Now, if they are refugees and if they are staying in some countries, so that nation's responsibility is to take care of this refugee population. So they can move freely. They can be just like other citizens. But unless and until they are not going to get the refugee status, they are asylum seekers. Okay.
Okay.
Sir, what I understand is that there is a time lag between when some person go out from a country with any fear
Mhm.
and when he become a refugee. So there is a time lag. This time lag is known as asylum seekers.
The thing is
So
that
I
sorry, sorry.
I have seen a documentary named as Human Mobility,
Okay.
which deals with that things that asylum seekers have so many camps and on the border of some countries in Europe and in US, Mexico
Mhm.
borders. But
Mhm.
when they will get the status of refugee, then
Mhm.
they enter in the country.
That is what
So
I have
so
explained.
so we can
Unless
also say that the asylum seekers are the more vulnerable than the refugees because they don't have any right as the refugees have.
see, all are vulnerable. Even if you are a legal migrant, we cannot assure you that you are not vulnerable. Okay. But the thing is that here the law protects you. But for the asylum seeker, there is a law. And you have assurance that maybe if international community feels so, or if the lawmaker feels so, you are going to get the status of refugees. So the moment you get the status of refugees, you are under the purview of refugees law. And as you have rightly said, the documentary which you have mentioned about that people are staying on the borders in the camps and not entering into the states, but they have already moved out from their country. So the asylum seekers are the people who have already moved out from their country and waiting for other country to open their doors for them and waiting for the international communities to give them the status for refugees. That is okay.
Sir,
Hmm.
hello, sir. I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
So, if one person is asking for a refugee status in another country, and on that process he is given the status as asylum seekers.
Mhm.
If he fails to get the status of refugee, whether they will become an illegal migrant if he enters.
See, if he enters, then it is illegal
Sir?
migrant because asylum seeker have their the different role.
Okay.
Are you getting my point? And it is see, for
Okay.
it is not for a single people. The whole community or a group of people run or they move out of their country because of the fear. Whatever fear you are talking about, if there is a religious cause or any atrocities there or whatever, the climate change, whatever is there. So a large chunk of people move. Okay. But now
Okay.
further you will get more clarification. So by this time, I think you have
Okay.
understood. Okay. The
Yes.
next thing is
Okay.
now
Thank you.
the question is coming that smuggling and trafficking. So now we have moved over from refugees and asylum seekers to the second part, that is smuggling and trafficking. So what is smuggling? Human smuggling is related to illegal migration that I have already talked about. Under human smuggling, people crosses international border without following the immigration law that Manish has already given in his first explanation. Okay. So whereas trafficking in my in the I mean to say very lucid language or very informal way, I can say that in trafficking you think you take people as a commodity and you sell and you purchase the commodity for your use and for your profit and for your benefit. So in trafficking generally what happens, people sells to other people, and there are many ways, there are many different ways. You threaten to the people or you fool to them, or there are many ways in which you sell the people for your profit and you purchase the people for your profit. Now we are going to look further in details. So the things come that this is the trafficking definition in front of your screen. Now we are going to talk in detail about the things. See, large number of female children are the soft target for this trafficking. As per the UNDOC, this United Nations Office of on Drugs and Crime Report 2020 says that in 2018, out of 10 victims, 5 are women. And if you see the percentage, girls are 19% female girls, I mean to say, and 15% are female boys, whereas 20% are male adults. So it is not that only girls are getting trafficked or children are, but also men. But in terms of percentage, if you see the large chunk of people or the most soft targeted population is females and girls. And the same report says if you distribute the traffic people, then 50% are being sexually exploitation, are taken for sexual exploitation, 38% are forced labor, 6% are for criminal activities, 1.5% for begging, and 1% for forced migration. So now come to law of trafficking. So if we see what protects this trafficking and how to work on it. So international people, so the international law, this 2000 protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in person. It has 3 basic agendas. One is to protect, prevent, and suppress punishment, and especially focusing on women and children. The second agenda is to stop the smuggling of migration, either from air, land, or sea. And the third is to stop the illicit manufacturing and trafficking of arms ammunition. Okay. The additional objective of this protocol is to define who actually are the victims and what law should be created to protect this victim. And this law also protect the dignity of the workers. I mean to say, not workers, the people who get trafficked. So this law basically not only defines the trafficking, but also protecting the people and also working on what should more to be done to protect the person from trafficking. Okay. Now we are coming on the last section, that is international provision on migration. So before introducing this section or before talking on this section, if you have any question to the previous relating to previous section, you can ask. Okay, so shall we move to the last section, that is related to international provisions for migration workers. So now the thing is that this ILO convention number 97 and ILO convention 143. So we will discuss this both the convention together. So before that, discussing this convention, I just wanted to know from your side, what is the difference between convention and recommendation? Can anyone give me the answer?
Convention which has been ratified by the national government, and recommendation is that certain international organization has devised some best practices and which is recommended but not accepted by the host country.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone want to give try? Okay, so the convention, as rightly Manish said, that the convention are legal. Sorry, anyone?
Sorry, sir. Please go on.
No.
Go
Come on. Please.
I think just a moment. I'm not quite sure, but I think conventions are, again, if we're talking about the international policies for migrant laborers, I think they are made by international agencies and they are somehow binding on nations who rectify them. And recommendations are recommendations, so they are not binding in nature.
Right. So both are right. So let me explain in further that convention are legal bindings, the nation who has ratified, and recommendations are the guidelines. Now, how to implement this convention so that state, because every state has their own law. For an example, if you talk about a child labor or if you talk about domestic workers or anything, so every state, every nation has their own law to protect this worker. But when you are going to ratify ILO's convention, they have their own provisions, they have their own terms and conditions. So that terms and condition and your terms and conditions should not get clashed. And it should not be just like you are not able to manage this convention. So recommendations are basically enacted to give you a guideline how to implement this provision without hurting your own law. And you have to implement this convention as a signatory part. Okay. So we are talking about ILO Convention number 97 and 43. So what are this convention and what they are talking about? So the convention number 97 actually deals with the movement, I mean to say movement of labor. It talks about that two nations, whoever are making their bilateral policy, they should be clear in their bilateral policy for the movement of the labor, so that labor should not get exploited. Okay, so it is actually helping that two nations should make their bilateral policy in such a way that there should be free movements of labor, or whatever movements are labors are there, it should not be get troublesome, or the labor should not get into the policies, or they should not get exploited. Another thing that Convention 97 deal is to enhance the cooperation between the state, and it talks about labor's right. It says uh, how to make the policy that labor should feel safe while moving from one state to another state. Whereas the convention number 43 deals with the human rights thing, and it says it also protect the illegal migrants. It says, you see, in both the conventions they talk it that we should not discriminate between our native laborers and the migrants labor. We should give equal opportunity to both. But the thing is that ILO Convention 143 says that if you are dealing with the illegal migrants, you should also protect their right. It should not be like if they are illegal migrants, you should treat them badly, but you have to give the human rights of them for them. Okay. And whereas the Domestic Worker Convention 189, it is talking about as the title itself says it talks about the domestic work. It's talk about their decent work. It provides the provision related to their wages, hours of work, their holidays, and that labor should know about the contract. And it is just related to their social securities, their family securities, and all about their protecting their dignity. So all these labor conventions, whether Convention 97, 143, or 189, they are talking about the workers' basic right and their movement, and as well as they are protecting them from getting exploited. So that is from my end. And if you have any question related to anything, you can freely ask to me, or you can post your question in WhatsApp. I'll try to answer your answer, give your answer.
Sir, certain countries, including India, have not ratified the conventions related to refugees. So, what is your take on that?
See, if you're talking about India, India has many fundamental rights and fundamental duties that are not only protecting, I mean to say, that are not only protecting the people of India, but also it is giving assurance to the alien people or to the migrant people that you are safe in this country. There are many places in which the fundamental duties are overshadowing the fundamental rights. And in fundamental duties, what are the provisions? The provisions are related to the welfare state. And in welfare state, we are talking about giving everyone equal right and equal opportunity, irrespective of caste, class, race, and nationality. So there are many places and there are many laws. That specific law right now I don't know, but I mean to say I'm not having the list of specific law, but India is having many laws that protects the people's right.
No, but that is for the Indian nationals. So you rightly said those are there only for the national, but not for the refugees. India has not accepted those charter of UN.
If you're talking about fundamental duties, in fundamental duties, it is the role of state to protect human rights, and India is working on it. Okay, there are many laws. I'll try to answer this thing, a specific law which talked about the thing. I'll provide you the laws which protects this work, this people. Okay, because you see, despite we have not having ratified this refugee convention, there are many people from Myanmar, there are many people from Bangladesh, there are many people from Afghanistan, even from Tibet. They are they are living in our country, and they are having equal rights. I mean to say, they are utilizing all the rights which the Indian citizens are getting. Okay, they are working here, they are having their educations here. Okay, so it is not like if we have not signed the convention, so we are ill-treating to the people who are taking refuge in our country.
And sir, what do you feel is the role of culture in refugee and migration? For example, I will like to draw a contrast with respect to Europe. When the Russia attacked Ukraine, then when the Ukrainians started moving to say country like Poland and other countries, they were welcomed with the open arm, right? But as far as when the people from say Africa or say Afghanistan, Pakistan or Libya, when they were trying to enter into Europe, you can see on the police border, they were stopped, and all steps were taken to stop their illegal entry into Europe via Belarus. So what is your take on this?
A very good question. As per my knowledge, see, you have to see the difference between the refugees. In case of Ukraine, it is the international, I mean to say, international power who have involved in it. At the one side, Russia and another, there are many hidden nations are there who are willing for the fight. Okay, and there are many nations who are protecting Ukraine. So if they are supporting Ukraine in another manner, so they are going to welcome their refugees. So it is just to show the goodwill gesture that we are with Ukraine and that we are with Ukrainian people. So they are opening their arm and they're welcoming to these people. Whereas if you're talking about the people who are migrating from Africa and other Asian countries, in that situation, it is the game of power where someone is trying to coup the things or someone is trying to take hold over the power. So in this situation, if any particular group or community, if they feel insecure, they run. So these people, either they try to solve in a diplomatic manner, or they will try to create the things that they should not come to us, but still they are going to, but still we are going to give them some rights. So in this way, they are taking care of. Hope I have answered your question. Anyone else? If you
Sir,
want any.
Sir, I again come to that documentary, which I see that we have the convention and we have some laws regarding the refugees and asylum seekers, but still on the ground level, their conditions are not very good. They are very vulnerable. Even in Europe, even in US, even in which countries are known as the pillars of the democracy and which are showing that they are the masterpieces of modernity. These people are very vulnerable. So I think there is some mismatch between what we read and what is actually practiced on the ground level for these refugees and asylum seekers. So my question is that how these nations or how these organizations, UNO and other organizations, make it more implemented, and all the human are, how we can make these people more secure, and because everyone has the right to live freely and right to live a nourished life.
See, your point is very valid. Now we have to see from the past history. See, earlier people were not getting the status of refugee itself. Okay. Now slowly they have get the status of refugee. They get the status of asylum seeker. Now with these policies only, people are slowly accepting these people. Now they are refugees. Some people are accepting, some people are not. But all the things we are going to create, I mean to say, whatever the policies are being made, it is made for the people benefit, but not all the people are going to get a sudden result of this policies. The policy will take time. So whatever the drawbacks are there, if you talk about the refugee convention, so earlier there was no status, then it comes to define what are refugees, and then they have started giving the status. Earlier it was, there was a time frame ki this much time a refugee can stay into a nation, but now it has extended. I mean to say, there is no time limit, and now people are making laws, further refining the things to improve the life of this refugee and asylum seeker, as well as we are also creating other laws that to help these people. So it will take some time, but slowly people will accept all this. Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
So there was this question of mine, we are having, at least in India, we are having this CA, Citizenship Act. And now there are going to be certain refugees who had come and are going to be considered as illegal. And of course, they have this redressal cell, and whoever is found to be genuine or been living at from certain ages and other things, that would be considered. But is there any convention or globally decided parameters on how they will be dealt with? Because there will be certain people who will not be able to say that we have been here for so and so years and other things. What is the international laws regarding these things, if there are any?
See, as per my knowledge, only this refugee convention law is there to protect these people. And I know India is not a signatory to it. And if all this thing will take place, I mean, so whatever you are expecting, so I don't know what is to take place, but definitely international communities and international provisions will be there to protect these people also. So we cannot expect that these many people are to be thrown out of country or thrown out of with no land or no place to go. So there will be people are going to take some steps or some initiative to protect these people. So.
Because there have been, it's not just India, there have been cases around the world also, because of sudden conflicts or other things. They have been going and they have not found a place, or they were welcomed for certain time and then they are being pushed back. So I just thought if there were some international laws or certain international debates which have been going on for framing certain rules and guidelines. So thank you so much, sir.
So right now I don't. Right now I have no idea about this thing, but I'll try to search it out, and if I found, I'll let you. Okay, thank you. So anyone else? Because someone has raised their hand.
Yeah, I
Anu, I think. Acha, Daman.
No. So disconnected. I don't know if it is already asked or not. But we have like is, but still there are countries, I don't want to name them, who times and again threaten certain refugees of certain religion to repatriate them. So given we have all kind of laws, international laws, would it be feasible and practical to send them to their country, to their host country, home country, and or is it just a political drama?
Yeah, I did not get your question, but what I have understood, you wanted to know is it feasible to send this refugee back to their countries?
Yes.
No, it is not, because actually they have run out of their country, or they have been forced to move out of their country. And this force has been derived from the nation itself. I mean to say, there are many political issues, there are many religious issues, or there are many local and international issues that make this people or this community or this people, I mean to say, to move or to forcibly move out of their native country. So it is not right to send them back directly. You have to first see if the situation is normal and they are willing to go back, then there is no issue. But if the situation is not normal and they are not willing to go back, we cannot force them. That is why we have this refugee convention, that this is actually protecting them. This is actually giving them a status that these people are refugees and we have to protect them. Okay. Hello, I am audible.
Yes, sir, very much.
Okay. Thank you.
I think, yes, sir. I think Manoj has dropped out.
Okay.
He is having internet connection problem.
Okay. So no worry. If anyone has any more questions, so please, they can ask.
Sir, I will only like to not ask a question, but make certain comment. My comment is that during World War I and World War II, there were a lot of devastation in Europe, and because of that, a lot of internal as well as external migration took place. And that was something which was visible. That was something which people were talking about, right? Even in the present case, from Ukraine, the migration is taking place. People have turned refugees. But there are certain cases where the people are not talking about. For example, in Ethiopia, okay, where there is still the civil war raging and people are not there. So I think if this kind of event happen in a country with the high, media attention, then people start talking about them. But if it happens with a certain low visible country, then people are not talking about, and it is a silent problem which no one is talking about, because it is not very, you can say, very media kind of a breaking news kind of thing.
Attention.
And I feel that even now today the refugees are more than, if I'm not wrong, more than what was there in the World War I and World War II. But of course they are dispersed across the world, so a normal person cannot understand the severity of the problem.
Yes, actually the thing is that during World War I and World War II, the incidents took place in a short period of time. I mean to say, within the moment people have migrated. Okay, but if you are talking about Ethiopia, or if you are talking about Myanmar or Afghanistan and other places, so it is taking, I mean to say, it is taking long time. People are politically and how they are driven, and now people are started moving from their place. But during World War I and sorry, Abha. Yes. Hello, Abha. Okay, so during World War I and World War II, people have just started moving and forcibly moved from there. That is the thing I think.
And another comment I can make about is that the entire this refugee crisis, which has happened in the past and it will happen in the future, is related to the treatment of the minorities by the government. So the major chunk of refugees are religious, linguistic, or political minorities, and their own government have mistreated them, and because of them it has taken place. Yes, there may be in the case of the economy also. For example, from Venezuela, people are moving to Colombia. But mostly it could be fall into the mistreatment of minority. For example, in Myanmar, this is taking place, you know, and other part. Just a comment.
So anyone else want to give any comments or their ideas, or you want to know something else?
Sir, I want to add some more factors in this. That being a student of economics, and we deal with the refugees and asylum seekers from a political point of view, but there are also some economic factors, because when we see the journey of these refugees, that what are the originated countries and what are the destination countries, and these are the from south to north, from poor countries to the rich countries. So as we dealt with the phases of 1950 and 1970, and the economic model has changed after 1990 at global level. And before that, there was a Keynes model of mixed economy which works very well. The wealth inequalities and the per capita income inequalities are converging. The poor countries developing at a higher rate, and they benefit to the lower strata of the people. But what was happened after 1990? We changed from mixed economy to the new liberal globalization. And when this new liberal globalization comes, the inequalities increases further. The rich countries become more rich and the poor countries become more poor. So this factor is also enhanced that as a push factor for refugees and asylum seekers. This is the basis, and I think this is the political economy which works behind the curtain.
Right. You are right, very much. Anyone else? Abha?
No, sir. Thank you so much.
So can we wind up now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's very
So if you have any issue, you can
Thank you, sir.
comment in the WhatsApp also. Okay.
Right, sir. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.